Hello, everyone. This is Sarah and Katrina, co-hosts of the Moeller Report, and we are very excited for the guest that we have today. We're going to do it a little bit differently today. We're going to do a little bit of catching up with you guys since it's been a while since we've been on, and then I'm going to turn it over to Katrina to introduce our guest that we have today. So we just wanted to spend a couple extra minutes this morning just seeing, kind of explaining what we've been doing since we've been gone. I've been doing some traveling, as Katrina has also. So Katrina, you want to tell us a little bit about what you've been doing?
So I am, obviously, most of us are doing something outside of the op, and I'm working on my own little thing, and part of that was going to Shirley Gutowski's presenters camp in Wisconsin, where I was able to spend the weekend with Kyle Isaacs, and I was lucky enough to be able to have dinner at Angie Stone's house, and it was awesome. I just kind of felt like I was in the presence of celebrities, dental celebrities, and they're so sweet and so down to earth, and that's kind of why you guys haven't seen or heard from me lately. I've been busy, but Sarah always finds a way to comment on everybody's post because she is like queen of Facebook. But Sarah, what have you been doing? You've been super busy.
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that I enjoyed your interview that you had with Kyle and Angie. I thought that was awesome. It was kind of behind the scenes in a more intimate setting, and we got to see a more personal view of them. So I appreciated that you were able to go live.
Absolutely. That was so cool. And it made me feel like I wasn't completely, I don't know. It made it feel like I was still on the right path, because in our brains, we think we have to have it all put together and everything has to be perfectly laid out before we can go out there and show it to the world. But to see people who are extremely successful and that everything isn't perfect and they're so human, just like we are, it made it more, my goals more reachable and attainable.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I appreciate the time that they took to be on the Moeller Report too. So everybody always loves, anytime Kyle comes on, everybody is always so, responsive to what she has to say. And she's a wonderful person. So we're glad we were able to see her and Angie.
Absolutely. They are so sweet. And Kyle and I shared an Airbnb, and we slept in the same bed. Kyle has got a heart of gold. She is definitely one of the best humans on this planet. I absolutely adore her.
Yeah, I think she's wonderful too. I was able to meet her. I've met her a couple times in real life, but most recently I saw her in Arizona at the Morado for the speakers and consultants event that they had. And she is just so warm and inviting. So I enjoy her too. So, all right. What do you think about bringing our guest on, Katrina? He's patiently waiting in timeout.
Okay. Well, we're always super excited about our guest because we are bringing people to you guys that are out there doing things and who we can learn from. And today's guest is an author, speaker, owner of GetHiredRDH. He's a go-to guy for resumes, interview tips, and website development. So today we want to welcome our guest, Doug Perry.
All right. We're notifying him, and he's going to come on. There he is.
There he is. Hey, Doug.
Hey, guys. How are you doing?
Very good. You look so professional.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. You guys do too.
Your lighting and your sound is like on point. Looks great.
Good. That's a good thing because I worked at it.
And your colors in the background is perfect.
Yeah, it didn't just come together like this? I mean,
no, and I've been working on my radio voice all evening and this morning, so I think I'm ready to go. I think I'm ready to get fired up here.
Awesome. Well, thanks for being here, Doug.
Sure.
All right. So before we start off, I want to encourage our viewers to ask some questions to get engaged with our guest today. And Doug is a great resource for everything that we're going to be talking about today: resumes, interview tips, website management. So if you have any questions, feel free to make them available. If you want to remain anonymous, you can send it to us through Messenger, and hopefully we'll be able to access it that way. But don't be scared to ask Doug the questions, because he's one of the most friendliest guys I've ever met. So,
and remember,
and
if you have a question,
and no secrets.
No, okay, I'll hold you to that.
No skeletons.
Remember, if you have a question, there's plenty of other people who have the same question. They're just too afraid to ask it. So you asking your question could really benefit other people as well.
All right, Ashton's saying hello. Hello,
hey,
Ashton.
Hi, Ashton.
All right, Doug. So we know that you are the resume guy from Trapped in a Knot, and we know that your wife is a registered dental hygienist. But we want to know, who was Doug before he became the GetHiredRDH?
Did you say I was a dental hygienist?
No, your wife.
My wife is a dental hygienist.
Yeah.
Yes, not me. So, who am I? I'm just a marketing guy. I got into this business because of my wife, who's a dental hygienist. She was having a hard time finding a job right out of school in 2010, and so I put my marketing hat on, which covered up my baldness. I should have brought it with me. I put my marketing hat on and did a number of different things that I had already been doing for years in the field that I work in, and really just kind of translated that whole approach and put a spin on it towards marketing yourself as a person instead of a product or a service. And so that's how I did it. I basically took what I knew and I applied it to what my wife needed at the time, and it really worked well. It worked so well that I thought, other people should really benefit from this. There's a lot of things that I could do. I've always wanted to write a book anyway, so this is a good subject that I could write on and a good target audience that I could share it with. And so just kind of came together that way. And then since then, there was just so many people that were like, hey, can you just do this for me? Can you help me with this and put a little bit of your elbow grease into this one, into my specific situation? And I said, sure, I can help you with that. So I did that. And then one thing led to another, and pretty soon I had a website, I had a business, and I had a lot of clients that were coming to me. So kind of how it evolved.
Well, so you have helped so many people, and that, me included, and this guy really knows his stuff, that's for sure.
Well, thank you. It's a labor of love. It really is a passion of mine. I'm not in it for the money, honestly. I have a day job that I really love, and I actually take time away from that I probably shouldn't to put into this. It's such a labor of love. There's so many people out there that really don't know how to put themselves out there and don't know how to sell themselves, and it's so much easier for them to hire somebody else to do it for them, that it's just a passion of mine and something that I just absolutely love to do.
I had no idea you had another job. Sorry, Sarah. Keep running over you.
I do.
Yeah, that's what I was surprised about. Like, I didn't know Doug had another job for a long time, because, he is the most efficient worker. Like, I'll send him, because he does MuellerReport.com, and he does an excellent job with the website. So thank you for that. But I'll send him something, and it's like almost instantaneously, like, it's just done. And I'm like, how? And I always tell him, you don't have to do it now. Take your time. And he's like, boom, boom, already done. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's so fast.
It's stressful for me to have people waiting for me for things, and the more it piles up, I just say, you know what, this takes me 5 minutes. I'm going to do it right now, get it done. They're happy, I'm happy. I can go on to what else, what are the things I need to do.
Yeah. So your story sort of relates back to what we always talk about on here, like finding your passion. Like, what do people continuously ask you to do over and over, and then you just turn it into a business? Literally.
Yeah, exactly. It was born out of a need that others had, that my wife had first, and it was very easy for me to take the knowledge that I had and translate and put that into as sort of a template for other people as well.
Yeah, that's very cool. And then we're just going to kind of go along. I know that some people messaged me before and said that this was kind of a busy weekend for them. So we might have some questions after. They're going to view the interview later at a later time, and then they'll probably ask some questions as they're viewing it later.
Yeah.
Is that going to be okay with you, Doug? If they can.
Totally fine.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Email me. That's fine too.
Okay, cool. And we'll give your contact information too when we're done, and we'll edit the post to include all of your information.
Great.
And then if we're going to go down and talk about like parts of your job, like what is the most favorite, the favorite part of, what am I trying to say? The most favorite part of your job. Once I started to say it, it didn't sound right, but yeah.
My favorite part of the job in terms of working with hygienists and things, I would have to say that there's this point about 3/4 of the way through when I'm doing a resume, when it's all kind of coming together. The vision that I had for it at the very start is materializing, and everything's just kind of coming together perfect, and it just feels right, and I get really excited about that, and I can't explain it other than it's just something I'm just passionate about. And so that's one point where I really enjoy about this work. The other point is the feedback I get from the client once I give them the resume there for the first time, and they say, "Wow, that's amazing! I didn't know that I was that great." And it's almost like it breaks my heart almost to think, "Of course you're that great. This is how great you are. This is you." And to think that people don't think of themselves as great as they really are, it kind of hurts a little bit. But at the same time, I'm excited that I'm able to help them to see that and to be able to feel that. And then the third part that I really love is when they come back to me, and I got a call this morning from somebody in Florida that I worked with probably 2 years ago. She just called me out of the blue and said, "You know what? Your resume helped me get a job where I am today. I just wanted to say thanks.
Wow.
You made a huge difference in my life, and I just wanted to say thanks. I saw your number pop up on my contacts list, and I just wanted to call you." And that was her only motivation. It makes me a little bit messy. Yeah. And I get that a lot. I mean, a lot. And so and I never get tired of it. It's so exciting. It's so thrilling. It's why I do what I do. It's why I keep doing what I do, and why I continue to try to improve it and make it better and better and better for the next person that comes along.
That's awesome. Well, I know you really did this for me. I read my resume when you sent it, and I was like, "I'm awesome." I was like a little intimidated by myself, and so
it's hard.
Thank you.
It's hard for people to articulate that for themselves. I have a hard time too. I mean, I don't like bragging about myself. I don't like talking myself up, but you have to. When it comes to job searches, you really have to, because if you don't do it, no one else will, unless you have testimonials, and we can get into that strategy in particular. But there's a very important job that you have to do when you go to look for a job, which is to sell yourself, to market yourself, and to talk about all the great things that you've done. Even if you don't think they're that great, others need to know that you've done them so that they can see that you're great.
Absolutely. Like Allison, she said, "My favorite part of working with Doug is a shift in confidence that happened when I see my true worth on paper so well articulated."
Yeah. Yep. Very common theme. Yeah.
Thanks for that, Allison.
Yeah. Thank you, Allison.
All right. I'm going to hide that so we can see faces again. Okay. So I know you're a creative guy too. So you were talking about your favorite part, when everything kind of comes together. Do you enjoy the creative part of that process too? Tell me about that.
I love the creative part, and this kind of goes into the least favorite part of the job, which is the dread of getting somebody's order and the space of time that I have to figure out, okay, how am I going to do that? What am I going to do again? I have to come up, I've done this for so many years now, and I've done it for so many people. I still have that little twinge of doubt in my head. Can you really do this again? And sometimes I tend to put it off. I go out and I find some yard work to do, or I go find something else, anything to do to not have to start in on this, because there's that little bit of dread But I noticed something, and that is that I go running almost every day, every morning. And I have that same level of dread when I put my shoes on and I'm getting ready and laced up and getting ready to go for a run. I hate getting ready to go for a run. I hate getting my feet moving, and I hate the first 5 minutes of running. I hate it. But after that, I start to kind of get into this groove, into this, I don't know, it's an indescribable feeling, sort of like when I'm starting to really feel good about the resume. It's just like everything just kind of comes together and everything flows. And that's probably the worst part of the job, is just that little start. And it's mostly in my head. It's just something that, you have those little doubts in your head. Can you really pull this off again? Everybody thinks you're great, but can you do it one more time, And I think everybody suffers from that, though. It's just,
yeah.
I think they call it the imposter syndrome or something like that. And I certainly go through it too. But I can tell you that as a professional no matter what field you're in, if you'll just put your shoes on, get your shoes laced up, and get yourself moving within just a few minutes or a few days or a few weeks or a few months, whatever it is, you will start to feel comfortable. You will start to feel like, wow, I can do this, and I'm going to do this, and wow, I just did this.
Mm-hmm.
I love that you mentioned that, because you're right, everybody suffers with that self-doubt. But knowing how successful you have been, or you are, and knowing that you suffer from it too, I think that really helps people.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's that kind of all combines us together. It doesn't, like Allison said, none of us are immune to it. So, and that's what makes you such a great person to do these sort of things, because you're transparent, and you also have that vulnerability. You actually know what your, client is going through as they're giving you their information. That's a kind of a vulnerable process too. I mean, you did my resume too, and it's like, okay, here's everything I have about me, and here, I don't know, it just seems like it's a very vulnerable process. Like, here's everything that I am career-wise, and I'm handing it over,
Yeah. And I feel a little bit of pressure, like, okay, how am I going to do this? Because I know they're feeling this way. I know they have their own doubts. I have to do this. I have to turn it on. And it always comes in. It always kicks in. It doesn't take that long before I really start to feel like I'm going to do this. But there is that initial period of time, a little space of time that you got to get yourself over. But I think everybody has it, and everybody can do it.
Mm-hmm. Well, you do an excellent job. So I was very impressed I'm always impressed by how fast you work, how well your work is, and how, like, the attention to detail that you pay attention. There's no errors in anything. It's very, very precise. So I love that.
Well, I'm glad you didn't find any errors.
No, I haven't. You know how picky I am.
But I wish I could say that was the case. I mean, I'm human. I make mistakes. Let me just say that up front.
Yeah.
I definitely have points, and that's why it's more of a team effort. It's something that I put forth my best effort, and then I hope that my client will also, review my work and make sure that we're on the same page.
So how do you want to ask a question, Katrina?
Well, we might be going to the same place, Sarah. So okay. I was going to mention, you have a day job, and you have your side hustle, people call it, but with your other business, and you have a family. How do you juggle all of these? And as an entrepreneur, if you're not busting it and you're working really hard and sometimes losing sleep and missing certain activities, then it's not going to be successful. What tips or recommendations do you have for anybody trying to do the same?
It's what do they say about eating an elephant? It's just it really is just figuring out a game plan as to what it is that you need to accomplish to become whatever it is you want to become. If it's a hygienist, a clinician, or if it's a sales rep or a researcher, a clinical researcher, whatever it is, you have to just figure out what that goal is, put it down on paper, create a game plan as to how you're going to get there, and then just take small bites every single day, sometimes every single hour, toward that goal so that you are slowly making progress toward it, because you're going to have setbacks. You're going to have to expect that, and you're going to have to expect that life gets in the way. Life gets in my way all the time. I have a car sitting out on the street that's waiting for me to take it to the dealership so that it can get fixed, and it's something that has to be done today. So when we get off here, I'm going to go do that. But there's all kinds of things that are going to get in the way. You can't let that stop you completely. You just have to say, okay, my best effort today is to simply get up out of bed and make my bed. There's a great little talk on that by somebody that was floating around the internet there for a while. If that's the best I can do today, then that's what I'm going to do today. And just realize that there are going to be days that are challenges, and there are also going to be days where you can get a lot done, and you just have to take advantage of it when you have it. But if you don't have a game plan to start with, if you don't have that motivation and that determination that goes with the game plan, then yeah, it is a struggle, and it will probably flounder until you get those things in place.
Do you have days where you want to do anything but create a resume?
No, I have days where I wish I didn't have to go to my day job.
Okay.
So that I could go in back and create resumes. No, I'll be honest with you. There are times where I feel like, gosh, I really need a break. My eyes are just killing me. Or to reflect on other things and get myself out of that so that I can come back and be a little bit more crisp for whoever it is I'm working for. So yeah, I mean, I'm human. I'm like everybody else. There's days where even the most exciting, passionate thing that I love doing, I still need a little bit of a break from. I think everybody needs, they need 7 or 8 hours of sleep every night. Everybody needs breaks. Your brain has to have it, and I'm no different. So
I agree.
It's funny you said that about your day job gets in the way of your hobbies, because that's what I say every day. I'm like, it's so unfortunate that my paying job gets in the way of all my other hobbies.
Yeah, and I don't mean to disparage my day job. I actually really like my day job too. There's a lot of stuff that I told you the other day, Sarah. There's things that I'll probably die that I've never done that I really want to do. I have a lot of interests and a lot of things that I love doing, and I have a big long bucket list of things I want to do. No daredevil things, but just stuff I want to see, stuff I'm experience, and I just kind of chip away at it and just kind of get there eventually. But yeah, I have a zest for life, I guess you could say.
That's awesome. And then
do you feel like sometimes do you get a little overwhelmed sometimes that it's just not happening quick enough because you have these bucket list ideas that you want to reach, but life has to happen first? That happens to me all the time.
every day. And I've got another project helping my wife who's trying to become a real estate agent, get up off the ground. I just about got her ready. In fact, I think we're going to launch her today, maybe tomorrow, with some Facebook advertising and Google advertising and things. But that was an effort that we had to put forth. That was several months in the making. I mean, it wasn't something we just came together with and put together. So yeah, there's lots of days where I had to put her stuff on hold, or I've had to put my business on hold. I've had to put my day job a little bit on hold, so that I can get everything kind of worked out. It's just kind of that way.
Mm-hmm.
So Doug, let's go into, we have a couple questions. I want to save these questions for the end, if that's okay with you. I want to talk about branding and how does a hygienist, how does that process work, and what do you recommend? I know it's kind of a general question, but what are some tips that you want to give hygienists that are trying to work on, or hygienists or anybody that needs your services to work on branding themselves?
The whole process is, you have to think of it like a product. We've all had experiences working with products. We have a favorite soft drink that we enjoy, or a favorite restaurant we like to go to, or a favorite pair of shoes we like to go to. You have to almost think to yourself, how did that product end up in my hands? Well, there was a number of things that had to happen, and there was a number of points of contact where that product was introduced to you, you started to kind of be interested in the product, you learned to like the product, and then you kind of came to the end, which is sort of this trust in the product, that you believe in it. And so I think it's a lot like that. If you're trying to brand yourself as a dental hygiene coach or sales rep, anything, you've got to start to figure out, how is it that I can get that employer to start to know who I am, first of all, then to like me, and then to trust me. And it's not as easy as it sounds. It's a 3-step process, but it really is what the approach is to all products. And you also have to figure out the other part of the equation is to figure out how to differentiate yourself, how to make yourself different than the competition, because everybody is going to say a lot of the same things. And so you have to figure out, how can I stand out? How can I put myself into their field of vision so that they know who it is that I am, and that I'm different than someone else, that they're going to get this from me, and that's their expectation, and I'm going to fulfill it. How am I going to get their trust to that level? And there's all kinds of strategies. I mean, I could go into them, but that's the basic premise. That's the whole point, is to get them to know, like, and then trust you by differentiating yourself, figuring out how it is that you can make yourself different.
And I know you work with people with their social media accounts, at least LinkedIn. And I don't know how much more like Facebook. I don't know what your services you offer there, but I know you work with people. How does social media come into that branding process?
It's so incredibly amazing that we have social media today. I mean, when I first got out of school, there was no social media. There was barely the internet. It was just the internet. I was learning the internet while I was in college, how to build websites and things like that. So social media didn't come along until the last 10 years, the last decade. Before that, the only way you had in which to meet people was through email, maybe an introduction through a website. They could learn a little bit about you that way, or in person. And now, since we have social media, and because so many people have embraced it and adopted it and are using it, it's opened up this whole amazing world in which you can network yourself, and you don't even have to leave your bedroom to do it. And I've built my entire business on that. I mean, I went to my conference just a few weeks ago at the Dentistry's Got Talent event. And that was the first public appearance I've made in the last 5 years for this business. And yet the business was still able to take off and thrive. So social media is huge. It's huge in a way to build your brand and to get yourself networked out there with people. You guys have built that the same way. You're in different cities. And so you understand that. And I think everybody in the Trapped group understands that. It's just a huge a tool that we can use to do that.
Absolutely. And if you guys need any tips, Sarah's really good at
Sarah knows her stuff.
Staying active on social media.
No, it's funny that I wrote that article like, hey, how to make a Facebook Live. And then every time I go live, I'm like, still like my heart's pounding and I'm like sweating. I told Katrina, I'm like so hot. It's been a while since I've been on Facebook Live. It all sounds good on paper, but you've got to, put yourself out there. But once you do it, it gets a little bit easier every time. But
oh, for sure. And people resonate to authenticity. If you guys came in with this whole stage production, it would be okay. But honestly, the authenticity that you feel with when you hear me stalling, trying to figure out the right word to say, that kind of thing is what really sells to people. And that's what they want to know, because then they know they can trust you. They know that you're just like them. And that's what really helps to sell you. So kudos to you both.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Doug.
Sure.
Thank you.
And Katrina, I'll let you ask a question. I feel like I've been hogging the questions.
No, do we want to, just in case a couple people can't stay on the entire video, should we ask a couple of these questions?
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to ask those questions? Do you have access to them?
Yeah, for some reason I do today. So let's see. Anita Costi, I believe, Says, hi, Doug. What do you usually change in a hygienist resume? So is that enough information for you?
What do I usually change in a hygienist resume? I'm going to guess that she's talking about a clinical resume, maybe.
Probably.
But really, it doesn't matter because I change almost everything. It's not to say they've done a bad job. It's just that most resume people come to me and say, here's my resume. Most of the time, it looks like every other resume. And if it looks like every other resume, is that going to be any different than, how is that going to translate in terms of your brand? How are they going to understand who you are? So I change a lot of things. I mean, there's a lot that I do with a resume. I think you guys both know because I've worked with you that it looked much, much different. I hope it read a lot different. I put a lot of time into the writing as well. But those two things kind of come together, and it results in a lot of changes.
Yeah, I think you make it easy to understand. I tend to be a little too wordy with things.
Yeah.
And you kind of get straight to the point, and that's what somebody needs if they're reviewing 25 resumes. You know, they don't need all those words in between. They just need to see like the content. And so I feel like you help kind of trim it up a little bit and make it more effective with less words.
Yeah, and I picked that up from one of my college professors in journalism. I graduated with an associate degree in journalism, and he was constantly telling us tighter, tighter, tighter. You know, see how few words you can use. It was all about economy of words, and he pushed us. He really, really pushed us, and so I adopted that style of writing, and it just worked perfect for resumes because that's exactly what you have to do. You have to be very, very stingy with words, and yet still communicate stuff.
Yeah, that's tricky.
Is there anything specific that you can think of, the top of your head, that you see reoccurring in the typical hygienist resume that just needs to be thrown out the window?
Yeah, the objective statement, the opening statement that's underneath your name and your contact information, oftentimes is this little statement that's called objective. And I know where they get it from. It's off of the internet. People do searches when they try to figure out how to do a resume themselves. And that style of creating a resume is still out there, is very prevalent. But most resume writers, not just me, but in fact, almost all resume writers that I know of today have all agreed that that is a complete waste of space. Everybody already knows what your objective is. Your objective is to find a job. Your objective is to get a job with them. They know that. You don't have to waste any space. Much, much better if you tell them about who it is that you are, what they can expect if they hire you. That's what they really want to know. They want to know, if I hire this person, are they going to get along with the rest of my staff? Are they going to represent me well with my patients? That's what they want to know. And those are the two main questions they're trying to figure out when they look at your resume and when they interview you, those two main things. And so tear out the objective statement, I call it an about me statement, but a lot of times people feel like that's a little too fluffy. And so some people will say, well, how about a summary? And that's fine. That's whatever, but just make sure you have something that's different than the traditional tired objective statement.
Do you have anything to offer on fonts?
On fonts?
Yeah.
I tend to stick with ones that are really clean. My whole approach to design is clean and simplicity and those kinds of things. And so I stick with, there's a font called Calibri off of Microsoft Word. It's their default font right now. That's what I use to create resumes right now. It used to be, for a long time, it was Times New Roman. I think that one kind of has faded and no one uses it anymore. Well, actually, a lot of people still use it. I see it on their resumes, but I steer people more towards using something that's clean and simple and conveys that level of simplicity. Steve Jobs used to say the ultimate simplicity is, or the ultimate form of sophistication is simplicity. And that's the whole approach that I've tried to take with all of my work, is to try to make it as simple, easy for people to digest, easy for people to navigate and get through. And that font is a very simple font. It's it conveys that clean simplicity.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. Well, Karen Hershey says, "Hey, Doug.
Hey,
Your
Kara.
resume you did fantastic. Do you help make brag books or a nice portfolio?"
I have done a few of those, yes. And everybody's definition of a portfolio is different. Everybody's different definition of what a brag book is different. So it becomes more of a custom type of a job of what you need and what the person is expecting. But yeah, I've done all kinds of things like that. I've done letters, personal statements of, I can't remember what they're called, but it's the statement that you have to write in school or into a master's degree program. I've written those for people, lots of those, in fact. I did a portfolio for a dental hygiene student in Florida 1 year. I did that in a PowerPoint, I think. But yeah, all kinds of amazing and interesting things have come about since I've been doing this.
I had to make a portfolio when I was in hygiene school, but it was kind of one of those things. I was doing it because I had to, and
Yeah.
I never planned on ever using a portfolio again. Tell me, what would be the benefit of someone having a portfolio then?
What it does is it just gives you something different that not everybody has. Like you said, nobody wants to do that. Nobody thinks it's that important. But if you think it's important, and if you put it out there, and if it has stuff that's meaningful in it that you've collected over the years, could be almost anything really, but just things that are meaningful to your career, then absolutely put it out there. Put it out there for employers so they can see it and make them aware of it, because that's the kind of thing that I'm talking about with branding, is when you do things that are different than other people, that's when you get different results than other people, and that's when you stand out. So yeah, dust that thing off and get it ready to
go. True.
So Doug, do you want to go into maybe some interview tips? Like, let's say you've made the perfect resume for them, it's got them to where they want to be, and they're in the interview process.
Well,
you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. The biggest thing about interviews is it's all about preparation, and all the time that you put into preparing is going to make you feel so much more confident when you actually go in there. It's almost going to feel like, okay, I've already been doing this. So yeah, put a lot of time, pull out your phone and record yourself answering questions. I've got on my website the top 5 questions that get asked in interviews. These are just broad general questions. You'll always get some that are different, and they might be a little bit worded just a little bit different than what I have. But ask yourself these questions. Get yourself comfortable listening to yourself. Get yourself comfortable feeling like you can answer the question quickly and succinctly, so that your pacing is good, and so that you are articulating the thoughts that you want to articulate without sounding canned. You don't want to write it out. You don't want to memorize it. You want to sound authentic, and you want to cross it as genuine. And so practice that. Just get in front of your phone and do it a whole bunch of times over and over and over and over again. And that will increase your confidence. It will increase your ability to interview. And it won't even matter what questions they ask you, because you'll feel so good about it. And then the next most important thing would be to make sure that you know how to answer that first question, because when people tend to go into job interviews, they really are very nervous at first, and that first 2 to 5 minutes is almost painful. They're short of breath. Their heart's racing. This is going, and if you can understand exactly how to answer that first question or two, that is very simple. It's actually a softball question. They just ask you to tell you about themselves, to tell them about yourself a little bit. That's, if you can know exactly what you're going to say for that, it'll help you feel smooth and confident for the rest of the interview. And then you can kind of settle in. Your pulse rate will slow down. You can start to kind of gauge your pacing a little bit better, and you'll be more aware of what's going on around you instead of freaked out, that you just screwed up the first question in the interview. So those are my top 2 tips. Just prepare and know that first 2 minutes that, what you're going to say and how you're going to communicate with them.
I feel like that's the most dreaded question. Tell me about yourself. It's like,
It is.
where do I start? Like, do you want to know about me as a person? I mean, it's just like so general. I feel like that one's hard.
Yeah. And so think it through how, how much is too much, how much is too little, think it through how much you want to say and what exactly it is that you're going to say, so that when they do ask it, and they almost always ask that question. I mean, that's just one of those questions that is standard, and it's a softball. It's intended to warm you up a little bit. It's intended to break the ice a little bit. But if you really know what you're going to say, that'll really help the rest of the way of the rest of the interview.
So Doug, let me put you on the spot here.
Sure.
Tell me about yourself.
Didn't I already do that?
I bet you just are awesome at every single interview you ever go on.
Oh my word!
Interview has no chance with
No, you know what? I do some of this. I know I'm a much better coach than I am a player. I get nervous too. I get fumbled up. I don't prepare enough. I don't do. There's a lot of things that I could do. I can improve on. So I'm preaching to myself as much as anything. But yeah, you want me to tell me about?
I'm just teasing.
Sure. Whatever.
So Doug, do you have a little bit more time? I want to ask you about the process of writing your book.
Sure. What about it?
So where did the idea come from? And well, maybe that's not a good question, because we know that it was used to tell about the tips that you used for Tracy, right? In that whole process of writing her job. But what was, I guess, the technical process? Did you just start writing it down like in a document, and then have it converted to an ebook, or what kind of process did you go through? Because I know a lot of people are like, hey, I want to write a book sometime, but we don't really know how to do that.
There's a book, and I can't remember what it's called. It's called Free Writing or something like that, I think. But basically, the whole concept is get everything out on paper. It doesn't matter how perfect or if it's, the way it needs to be. That part comes later. The whole point is to get your brain flowing with all the information that you have and putting it on paper without the stress of trying to make it perfect. I didn't do that. I am an absolute perfectionist when it comes to writing, and I sit down and type, and I'll type out a sentence or two, and I'm like, oh shoot, I didn't put the comma there, or I didn't spell that right. I got to go back and fix that. And I'm the worst at this. I absolutely, writing it's the way I feel comfortable doing it, but it's probably not the best way to do it. So the way I would recommend is that you just get all your thoughts out there on paper and fix it later, organize and fix it later. But for me, the way I've done it is just slogging it out, just saying, okay, here's what I know about this, and here's what I know about that, and how can I explain this a little bit better? And then I go back and edit it 100 times. I mean, I just, like I said, I'm kind of a perfectionist on writing. I tend to overthink, over edit sometimes. So it's just kind of my own personality as far as writing. So I don't know if I'm a best example for that, for how to write a book, but I definitely didn't want to not do one. I had a lot I wanted to put out there, and so for me it was just fun. The whole process was fun, just to do it and get it out there and see what people would say. And they loved it. So
yeah, cool. So can we purchase your book, or where do you give your book out at, and how do we get a hold of it?
It is free. It's on my website. You just go to my website, and I think it's been a couple of weeks since I've been on there. I think it's under the About section. It's on there. I think it even pops up. But yeah, basically you just sign up for my weekly newsletter list, which I haven't contributed to in a long time because I've been so busy with resumes and helping people. But if you sign up for the weekly email that I used to give out, and I hope to get out sometime in the near future when I get more time, you'll get a copy of the book, and not only a copy of the PDF version, but also an audio version of the book, which a lot of people like to put on their podcast and just listen to it. I hired out of New Jersey, probably 3 or 4 years ago, to read it and to put it into audiobook format for me. And so she's got a great voice and does a great job with it. So if that's your preference, then definitely go through it that way.
What platform did you go through, Deb, to publish this?
My own. I just created it on, in a Word document first. Then I moved it to a program called Adobe InDesign, which is a layout program for books and other marketing materials. And then I created a PDF file of it and put it on my website. That was as simple as that.
So for people who are not savvy like Doug, there are other platforms, right?
Sure,
are there any that you recommend?
I can't recommend any because I haven't tried anything else. But I believe Amazon does something. Actually, I did try to create an Amazon book. My book, you can find it in Audible, actually, if you want to pay $1 for it. Also, if you went to audible.com, typed in "Get Landing a Great Dental Hygiene Job," you could see it in there. It's like I say, they charge $1 for it, but you can get it free on my website. Don't tell them that. But yeah, I did that early on, and it stayed in there, and I still get royalty checks from it once in a while. It's kind of fun, for $8 or something. But it's a form that you can use is Audible and Amazon for ebooks. But I haven't created an ebook. I just created a PDF because that was the simplest thing for me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
All right, so let's go ahead and give some of your information out. So if they want to get a hold of you, and I want to say a couple things that popped into my head. Doug when you submit your resume to him, he does come back at you with some options. So not everybody's going to have the same resume. He gives you choices on colors and formats and things like that. So you are going to be involved in that process, and not everybody's resume is going to be the same. So I enjoyed that.
That's an important point because, nobody wants to have the exact same resume as someone else. And, by default, everybody has different information. And so that's going to be different always. But what I also try to do is to take the overall design scheme that they're most interested in and then tweak that a bunch as well, so that it's truly something that that is different and that they own. And not only that, but also the writing as well. I try to create statements in there and writing that really applies to just that person.
And you do encourage them to send you their resume that they already have. That's this first step. Is that correct?
Yes, because it has a lot of the information I need, the technical stuff. Mm-hmm. And then I just go to work on it from there and customize it from there.
And you do have a lot of great information on your website. And I don't know that I see you. I don't hear you talking about your website very much, but when you go there, there's a ton of information, like articles that you've written and things like that you're always posting. So there are some very good
articles. Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say there are some very good tips and very good ways to put action into what you're doing, not just telling you why it's important to do it, but you tell us how to do it, which I think is important.
Yeah, I'm all about empowering people. I mean, if they feel like they need for me to get it done for them and get it done quickly, and that's the case for a lot of people, that's great. But there's also, I know a lot of people like myself who really like to do things on their own, and they like to know how to do it, and they want to feel empowered to do it. So I try to create that situation for them. So. Mm-hmm. And all of those articles I wrote over the course of about 3 years. There's about 200 articles on my website, just covering just about every angle you can think of for resumes, interviews, putting yourself into different situations in your career that you can thrive in, and cover letters and postcards, all kinds of different marketing materials you can create for yourself. All kinds of articles. I did those over the course of about 3 years, publishing one a week, and that's the accumulation of all of that. And I just, like I said, I haven't had time because I've had so many clients coming to me, and I want to get back to that because that is important for me to continue to do. But at this point, I just haven't had a whole lot of extra time. And I'm putting a lot of energy into helping dental hygiene students. Now, I've also got an initiative where I'm reaching out to all of the dental hygiene schools and trying to get dental hygiene students educated on how to build a resume for themselves. That's really important for me to do too. And I've got a number of them interested in getting some training videos from me put together. And so if anyone out there is in that field, if you're an academic instructor and you need something for your class to teach them how to build a resume, reach out to me. I can definitely help them with that.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I just want to make a point here. So Doug is not just a resume guy. And as Sarah mentioned before, he does help people with their social media accounts like LinkedIn. But what are some other options that you provide? Because I remember when you did my resume, I was floored at all of the different things that you can help with. So do you want to talk about those a little bit?
And, you know, people are asking me for portfolios and other things to help them get into dental hygiene school. So any kind of writing I do one sheets for professional speakers. I do websites for professional coaches and speakers. I do LinkedIn accounts, as you mentioned. I do postcards for clinicians. Also for people who are not clinicians, postcards are a great strategy for getting yourself out there, getting your name out there to people. LinkedIn, cover letters, thank you letters. I mean, if there's a document that helps you find a job, I probably have created it for somebody somewhere along the line, and probably lots of times. So lots of different things that fall into that category.
And I want to mention that I think when people think of having a website built, that, oh, I could never have that. I mean, people spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on having a website. Doug's services are extremely reasonable for, everybody. Mm-hmm. And I'm pretty frugal, so that says a lot.
Yeah,
would you agree with that, Sarah?
Oh, absolutely. I think he should be charging more. But wait till my price is over. Wait till my contract's over, then you can raise your prices.
Yeah.
Well, I think it's
important to keep it affordable.
Mm-hmm. And the quality of work too that you offer is good.
Yeah. Well, thank you. It's very kind of you guys, and I put a little bit of time into that to try to make sure that everybody gets what they need. It's just different for every person out there. Everyone has different needs, different things that they want help with, and I can help with a lot of that stuff. Just kind of like your own personalized marketing department, I guess.
Yeah.
And Kyle Isaacs, Doug did a great job with upgrading my website and the resume as well as a one-page. I highly recommend him. So
thanks, Kyle.
You're highly recommended.
And I highly recommend going out and visiting Kyle in Oregon. That's where I grew up. Is not too far from where she lives. So yeah, every time she posts her videos out on her farm, I get a little bit of jealousy going on.
She always has like the double rainbows that I'm seeing.
I know. It comes with a lot of rain, but
yeah,
but it's a beautiful place for sure.
And she takes guests because she just had Jen Kopp was just there with her.
Kopp, yeah, I noticed that this morning too.
Well, Doug, do you have anything? I know we're coming up on an hour now, so we don't want to take too much of your time on a Saturday. I know you've got that car you need to take to the dealership together.
No, keep me here so I don't have to do that. No, I appreciate you guys giving me some time to talk about what it is I do and the passion that I have for it. I hope it helps people. I hope that they feel after talking to me or after working with me, or even just, hearing other things that people say about the work that I did for them, that they feel like they can do this, that they can do whatever they want to do with their career. They can move it forward. And I'm all about just helping people move forward with their career. And that's what gives me a rush and makes me want to get up every day and do it again. So thanks.
Thanks for being with us, Doug.
Address again, it's www.GetHiredRDH.com, and if you want to email me, it's GetHired@gmail.com, or message me on Facebook. I'm pretty dialed into both of those ways to communicate.
And like I said, we'll update the post when we get done with your contact information and website and everything. And yeah, thank you for joining us today on Saturday and taking the time out of your day.
And thank you so much to all of our viewers as well. We know that this is a busy weekend for everybody, so we wish everybody an awesome and happy Easter.
And Doug is open to having some questions sent to him through Messenger or even commenting on the post and then trying to answer it that way. So.
And I'm kind of seeing a few of them come in on my screen right now. So
awesome.
So, yeah, the power of broadcast video is amazing. But yeah, it's fun.
Well, thank you, Doug, and we appreciate it. You know that you took the time out of your day. So we will, we'll be in touch because I'm sure I'll have some things to send to you for MolarReport.com soon.
Okay. And I'll get it done quick.
As you always do.
Thanks, Sarah.
All right. Thanks, guys.
All right.
We'll see you later.
See you guys.